There is a line that runs through my country. You cannot see it on a map. It is not drawn on the ground. It is not marked by a wall or a fence or a checkpoint. But every Nigerian knows exactly where it is. It runs roughly through the middle of the country, east to west, and it separates two worlds. To the north, Islam. To the south, Christianity. Two religions, two cultures, two ways of seeing God, of organizing society, of understanding what it means to be human. I was born on the northern side of that line, in Kano, the oldest, the largest, the most devoutly Muslim city in Nigeria, a city of ancient dye pits and crumbling mud walls, and the Great Friday Mosque, and the sound of the muezzin calling the faithful to prayer 5 times a day, every day, for 1,000 years. In Kano, Islam is not just religion, it is civilization, it is history, it is identity, it is the air itself, and I crossed the line. Not geographically, although I did eventually move south. I crossed the line internally, in my soul, in the deepest, most private, most sacred part of who I am. I crossed from one side to the other, and I can never cross back, because what I found on the other side was not a different religion, it was a different God, a God so unlike the one I was raised with that meeting him felt like seeing color for the first time, after a lifetime of black and white. My name is Hauwa. I am 28 years old. I am Hausa. I am from Kano. And I want to tell you the story of a girl who lived her entire life on one side of the line and discovered, to her astonishment, that God was waiting for her on the other side. This is a quiet story. There are no bombs in it, no dramatic escapes, no midnight flights across borders. The violence in this story is internal, the slow, grinding violence of a soul at war with itself. The kind of violence that does not leave scars on the body, but leaves them on the heart. The kind that nobody sees. The kind that you carry alone, in silence, behind a smile and a headscarf, and the performance of a faith you are no longer sure you believe. But it is also a love story. The most important love story of my life. The story of how a Hausa girl from Kano fell in love with a Jewish carpenter from Nazareth, and how that love rearranged everything. Let me tell you about Kano. Kano is one of the great cities of West Africa. It has been a center of trade, scholarship, and Islamic learning for over 1,000 years. When Europe was in its dark ages, Kano was a thriving city-state with libraries and mosques, and a commercial network that stretched across the Sahara to North Africa and beyond. The Kano Chronicle, one of the oldest historical records in sub-Saharan Africa, traces the city's history back to the 10th century. This is not a village. This is not a backwater. This is a city with a pedigree that most Western cities cannot match. But Kano is also a city of contradictions. There is the old city, the ancient walled area with its labyrinthine streets, its Hausa architecture, its traditional dye pits where indigo cloth has been produced for centuries. And there is the new city, modern, sprawling, with shopping malls and universities and traffic jams that can stretch for hours. The old and the new coexist uneasily, the way they do in any city where tradition and modernity are locked in an uncomfortable embrace. Kano is also a city under Sharia law. In 2000, when I was 3 years old, the state of Kano officially adopted Sharia as its legal code. This was part of a broader movement across northern Nigeria, where 12 states implemented Sharia in the early 2000s. Under Sharia in Kano, alcohol is prohibited, gambling is prohibited. Unmarried men and women are not supposed to socialize freely. The Hisbah, the Sharia enforcement police, patrol the streets, monitoring compliance. It is not as extreme as Saudi Arabia or Taliban Afghanistan, but the framework is there. Islam is not just a faith, it is the law. My family was deeply embedded in this world. My father, Al-Haji Musa Abdullahi, was a successful textile merchant in the Kurmi market, one of the oldest markets in West Africa. He was a Hausa man of the old school, dignified, devout, proud of his heritage, committed to his faith, and absolutely certain that his way of life was the correct one. He prayed 5 times a day with the punctuality of a Swiss clock. He gave generously in charity. He had performed Hajj twice. He was, in the eyes of the community, a model Muslim. My mother, Hajia Fatima, was his second wife. Yes, my father had 2 wives. Polygamy is legal and culturally accepted in northern Nigeria. His first wife, Hajia Aisha, had given him 3 sons. My mother gave him 2 daughters, me and my younger sister Zainab. The dynamics of a polygamous household are complex and could fill an entire video on their own. What I will say is this: my mother was kind, patient, and quietly sad in a way that I did not understand until I was much older. The sadness of a woman who shares her husband, who must navigate the politics of a household with a co-wife, who smiles and cooks and prays and wonders in the privacy of her own heart, if this is really all there is. I grew up in a compound, a large walled property where multiple families lived. My father's house, his first wife's house, various relatives all sharing a common courtyard. The compound was its own world, a microcosm of Hausa society, with its hierarchies, its rituals, its expectations. The women cooked and cleaned and prayed and raised children. The men worked and prayed and made decisions. The children played in the courtyard and went to school and memorized the Quran and were gradually shaped into the people the community needed them to be. I was shaped too, carefully, lovingly, relentlessly. I was taught to be a good Hausa Muslim woman, to be modest, to be obedient, to lower my gaze, to cover my body, to speak softly, to defer to men, to pray, to fast, to prepare for marriage, which was the ultimate destination of every girl's journey. Education was encouraged. My father was progressive enough to send me to school, but it was always understood that school was preparation for being a better wife and mother, not for having an independent career or an independent life. I accepted all of this, not grudgingly, willingly, because I loved my family. I loved my community. I loved the rituals and the rhythms of Hausa Muslim life, the call to prayer at dawn, the smell of suya from the street vendors, the sound of the drum at naming ceremonies, the colors of the lace fabrics that women wore to weddings. It was beautiful. It was mine. It was home. But even in the warmth of home, there was a cold spot. A place inside me that the warmth could not reach, a hunger that the food could not satisfy, a question that the Quran could not answer. The question was simple. Does God see me? Not does God exist? I believed in God. Absolutely, without doubt. The question was not about God's existence. It was about God's attention. In the world I grew up in, God was vast, powerful, sovereign, and distant. Allah was the creator of the universe, the sustainer of all things, the judge of the living and the dead. He was magnificent. He was terrifying. He was everything. But did he see me? Hauwa, specifically, personally? Did the God of the universe know my name, my face, my thoughts, my fears? Or was I a grain of sand on an infinite beach, too small to notice, too insignificant to matter? My mother prayed 5 times a day and still looked sad. My father prayed 5 times a day and still seemed restless. The imam at our mosque preached about Allah's mercy and still seemed burdened. If the people closest to God still carried sadness and restlessness and burden, then what was the prayer doing? What was the faith accomplishing? Where was the transformation? These questions were the cold spot, and they grew. I was educated at a girls' school in Kano, government girls' secondary school. It was a decent school, with dedicated teachers and a curriculum that balanced secular subjects with Islamic studies. I was a good student. Mathematics came easily to me. English came easily. I read voraciously. Anything I could get my hands on, which in Kano was limited but not impossible. I read Chinua Achebe. I read Wole Soyinka. I read Chimamanda Ngozi Adichie. Nigerian writers, all of them, but from the south, from the Christian side of the line. Their worlds were different from mine, more open, more questioning, more colorful in ways I could not articulate but could feel. At university, Bayero University in Kano, one of the major universities in the north, I studied English literature. This was an unusual choice for a Hausa girl. My father had wanted me to study education or Islamic studies. Literature was seen as impractical and potentially dangerous. What will you learn from stories? My father asked. Stories are not real. Study something real. But I insisted, and my father, to his credit, relented. He said, if you must study stories, at least learn from them. I learned more than he could have imagined. At Bayero University, I had a professor who changed the direction of my inner life. Her name was Dr. Amara. She was an Igbo woman from the south, a Christian, and one of the few non-Muslim professors in the English department. She was brilliant, fearless, and utterly unconcerned with the social expectations that governed Kano. She wore no hijab. She spoke her mind. She challenged students to think critically, to question assumptions, to engage with ideas rather than merely memorize them, Dr. Amara did not try to convert anyone. She was not a missionary. She was a teacher, but her teaching had a quality that I had never encountered in my Islamic education. She treated every student, male or female, Muslim or Christian, rich or poor, as a mind worth engaging. She asked us what we thought, not what we were supposed to think. She invited disagreement. She celebrated questioning. She treated doubt not as a weakness, but as a sign of intellectual integrity. In one of her classes, she assigned us to read the book of Job from the Bible, not as a religious text, as literature. She placed it alongside Greek tragedy and modern African fiction, asking us to examine the theme of suffering and the human response to it. I almost did not do the assignment. Reading the Bible felt transgressive, not illegal exactly, but taboo. A Hausa Muslim girl reading the Christian holy book? My father would not approve. My imam would not approve. The hisbah would not approve. But curiosity won. It always wins with me. That is my blessing. And my curse. I read Job, and something inside me opened like a flower. Job was a righteous man who suffered terribly. He lost his wealth, his children, his health. His friends told him that he must have sinned, that God was punishing him, that he should repent. But Job refused. He demanded to know why. He argued with God. He protested. He raged. And God answered, not with an explanation, with his presence. God showed up. He did not tell Job why he had suffered. He showed Job who he was. And Job, overwhelmed by the encounter, said, "My ears had heard of you, but now my eyes have seen you. My ears had heard of God my entire life, the mosque, the madrasa, the Quran, the prayers. I had heard of God, but I had never seen him, never encountered him, never felt his presence as a personal, intimate, overwhelming reality. Job had, and the transformation in Job was visible, from protest to peace, from rage to reverence, not because the suffering was explained, but because the sufferer was seen. God saw Job, and being seen by God was enough. I closed the book of Job, and I sat in my room in the female hostel at Bayero University, and I thought, I want that. I want to be seen, not by the community, not by my family, not by the imam, by God himself. I want to say, my eyes have seen you, and I want to mean it. That was the beginning, not the conversion. That came later. The beginning of the longing, the beginning of the hunger that would eventually lead me across the line. After Job, I could not stop. The door had been opened, and my curiosity, that relentless, beautiful, dangerous curiosity, pushed me through it. I found a Bible, not easily. In Kano, Bibles are available in some bookshops that serve the small Christian community, but a Hausa Muslim woman buying a Bible would raise eyebrows and questions. So I did what my generation does. I went digital. I downloaded a Bible app on my phone, an English version and a Hausa version, and I read in secret, at night, in the bathroom, during breaks between classes, sitting in a quiet corner of the library with my phone angled so no one could see the screen. I started with the Psalms, because Dr. Amara had mentioned them in class as some of the greatest poetry ever written. She was right. The Psalms were extraordinary, raw, honest, emotional poetry that expressed the full range of human experience, joy and grief, praise and protest, faith and doubt, hope and despair, all of it, directed at God, without filter, without censorship, without the careful, reverent formality of Islamic prayer. Psalm 139 stopped me in my tracks. O Lord, you have searched me and known me. You know when I sit down and when I rise up. You discern my thoughts from afar. You search out my path and my lying down, and are acquainted with all my ways. You have searched me and known me. God searches. God knows. Not in the surveillance sense, not the recording angel keeping a ledger of sins. In the intimate sense, the way a mother knows her child, the way a lover knows the beloved. God knows when I sit down and when I rise up. God discerns my thoughts. God is acquainted with all my ways. This was the answer to my question. Does God see me? Yes, not as a grain of sand, as Hauwa, specifically, personally, intimately. God sees me when I sit and when I stand. God knows my thoughts before I think them. God is acquainted with my ways, not just my prayers and my fasting and my outward performance, but my ways, my habits, my fears, my dreams, my secrets, my cold spot. I read Psalm 139, and I felt something I had never felt in 23 years of Islamic practice. I felt known, not judged, not evaluated, not weighed on a scale, known. And the knowledge was not cold or clinical. It was warm. It was personal. It was love. I continued reading the Proverbs, Isaiah, and then, inevitably, the Gospels. The Gospels were a revelation, not because they were theologically surprising. By the time I reached them, I had already begun to suspect that the Christian God was different from the Islamic one, but because they were so human, so intimate, so full of the messy, beautiful, heartbreaking reality of human life. Jesus attended weddings and funerals. He ate with people. He touched them. He cried. He got angry. He made jokes. Real humor, the kind that only someone deeply embedded in human life can produce. He noticed the widow putting her last coins in the offering box. He noticed the woman who touched the hem of his garment in a crowd. He noticed the tax collector in the tree. He noticed the children the disciples were trying to shoo away. He noticed. That was the word that kept coming back to me. Jesus noticed people, especially the people that everyone else overlooked. The small, the insignificant, the invisible, the women. Oh, the women. The way Jesus treated women was like nothing I had ever seen in Islamic tradition. He spoke to the Samaritan woman at the well, a woman from a despised ethnic group, a woman with a scandalous personal history, and he treated her with respect and dignity and genuine interest in her soul. He defended the woman caught in adultery against the mob that wanted to stone her. He allowed a woman to wash his feet with her tears and her hair, an act of intimacy that would have scandalized any religious leader in any culture. He saw women, not as possessions, not as property, not as temptations to be covered and controlled, as people, full, complete, valuable, image of God-bearing people. I was a Hausa woman. I had been loved by my family, but I had also been defined by my family, defined as someone's daughter, someone's future wife, someone's obligation. My identity was relational, not individual. I existed in relation to the men in my life, my father, my brothers, my future husband. The idea that God might see me as Hauwa, not as Musa's daughter, or Zainab's sister, or someone's future wife, but as Hauwa, was revolutionary. I want to pause here and speak to every woman watching this. Wherever you are, whatever your culture, have you ever felt invisible? Have you ever felt like you exist only in relation to other people, your father, your husband, your children, and never as yourself? Have you ever wondered if God sees you, specifically, personally, by name? He does. Psalm 139 says he does. Jesus showed he does, and I know he does because he saw me, a Hausa girl in a hostel room in Kano, reading a forbidden book on her phone, hungry for something she could not name. He saw me, and he called me by name. If you feel seen right now, if something in this story is touching the cold spot inside you, leave a comment. You do not have to explain. Just say, he sees me, and subscribe, because this channel is full of stories about a God who sees the invisible. My conversion was not dramatic. It was not a single moment of crisis or revelation. It was more like a slow dawning, the way the sun rises in Kano, gradually, gently, the sky shifting from black to gray to pink to gold to blue. You cannot point to the exact moment when night becomes day. You only know that at some point, the light arrived. But there was a night that crystallized everything, a night when the slow dawning became undeniable. I was 24. It was Ramadan, the holiest month in the Islamic calendar, the month of fasting and prayer and devotion, the month when God is supposed to be closest. I was fasting. I had been fasting every Ramadan since I was 12. This was the rhythm of my life. Wake before dawn, eat suhoor, the pre-dawn meal, fast all day, break the fast at sunset with iftar, pray, read Quran, sleep, repeat. But this Ramadan was different, because I had been reading the Bible for months, and the contrast between what I read in the Bible and what I experienced in Ramadan had become impossible to ignore. In the Bible, I found a God who was close. In Ramadan, I was reaching for a God who felt far. In the Bible, I found a God who invited intimacy. In Ramadan, I was performing rituals of discipline and denial. In the Bible, I found a God who said, "Come to me, all you who are weary." In Ramadan, I was weary, and I was coming, but I did not feel met. One night, about 2/3 of the way through Ramadan, I could not sleep. The heat in Kano during Ramadan is brutal. It is the hottest time of the year, and fasting through a Nigerian day without water is a physical ordeal. I was lying on my bed in the hostel, dehydrated, exhausted, and spiritually empty. The emptiest I had ever been. I opened the Bible app on my phone. I went to the Gospel of John. I do not know why. I just felt drawn there. And I read the words of Jesus in chapter 7. Let anyone who is thirsty come to me and drink. Whoever believes in me, as scripture has said, rivers of living water will flow from within them. Thirsty. I was thirsty. Physically. I had been fasting all day in the Kano heat, but also spiritually, soul-thirsty. The kind of thirst that 24 years of Islamic practice had not been able to quench. The kind of thirst that makes you desperate, that strips away your dignity, that makes you willing to do anything, even read a forbidden book, even consider a forbidden God, for a single drink. And here was Jesus saying, come, drink, not earn the right to drink, not fast for 30 days and then I might let you sip. Come, now, as you are, thirsty and empty and desperate, come and drink, and rivers, not drops, of living water will flow from within you. I slid off my bed onto the floor. The tile was cool beneath my knees. The room was dark except for the glow of my phone screen. And I prayed, not in Arabic, not in the formulas of Salat, in Hausa, my own language, my mother's language, the language of my dreams, and my thoughts, and my deepest self. I said, Yesu, ina jin kishirwa, Jesus, I am thirsty. 3 words. The most honest prayer I had ever prayed. No performance, no ritual, no formula, just truth, just need, just a woman on her knees in the dark, thirsty and honest and reaching for someone she had been told was not there. And he was there. The presence that filled the room was not loud. It was not dramatic. It was not accompanied by visions or voices or any of the supernatural phenomena that some converts describe. It was quiet, like water, like the first rain after a long, dry season, falling softly, soaking into cracked earth, reaching the roots that have been dying for months, bringing them back to life. The presence was love, not the word love, the reality, the thing itself. Love as a substance, as a force, as a person. Love that knew my name. Love that saw the cold spot and warmed it. Love that reached the place inside me that 24 years of Islam had not been able to reach. I stayed on that floor for hours. The dawn call to prayer came and went. I did not stand up for Fajr prayer. For the first time in 12 years, I missed Fajr because I was already praying. The deepest, most honest, most real prayer of my life. Not to Allah, to Jesus, to the God who said, come and drink, to the God who saw Hauwa. When I finally stood up, the sun was rising over Kano. The city was waking. The sounds of traffic, of vendors, of the morning bustle. Everything was the same, and nothing was the same. Because the woman who stood up from that floor was not the woman who had knelt down. She had been changed. At the molecular level, at the soul level, the thirst was gone. The cold spot was warm. The question was answered. Does God see me? Yes, he sees me. He has always seen me. And his name is Jesus. After that night, I lived a double life, a Hausa Muslim on the outside, a Christian on the inside. This duality is familiar to every convert in this channel's stories, but I want to describe what it looked like in my specific context, because every context is different. In Kano, as a woman, my life was already defined by layers of concealment. My body was concealed beneath hijab and loose clothing. My opinions were concealed beneath deference and politeness. My ambitions were concealed beneath the expectation of marriage and motherhood. Adding one more layer of concealment, my faith was, in a perverse way, almost natural. I was already an expert at hiding. I had been trained for it since birth. I continued fasting during Ramadan. I continued praying at the prescribed times, though my prayers were now directed to Jesus. I continued attending the mosque for Friday prayers. I continued wearing hijab. I continued being Hauwa, the good Hausa Muslim girl. The performance was seamless, because it was the only performance I had ever known. But inside, everything was different. Inside, I was reading the Bible every day. I was praying. Real prayers, honest prayers, the conversational prayers that psalm-type intimacy makes possible. I was growing, changing, becoming someone new while appearing to remain someone old. I found an online community of Nigerian ex-Muslim Christians. They were a lifeline. Most of them were from the north, like me. Some were Hausa, some were Fulani, some were Kanuri. All of them were living the same double life. All of them were carrying the same secret. And the shared secrecy created a bond that was unlike anything I had experienced in my Islamic community. Not because the Islamic community lacked love, it had plenty, but because the bond of shared danger, shared truth, shared forbidden faith was deeper, more intense, more real than any bond I had known. Through this online community, I connected with a woman I will call Sister Grace. She was a Hausa woman from Kaduna, a city further south, on the border between the Muslim north and the Christian south. She had converted 10 years before me and had eventually moved to the south, where she could worship openly. She became my mentor, my confidant, my spiritual mother. We spoke on the phone every few days, always in code, always careful. She taught me to read the Bible with understanding. She taught me to pray with confidence. She taught me that my faith, though hidden, was real and valid and precious. Sister Grace told me something I have never forgotten. She said, "Hauwa, God does not need you to be public to be real. The God who sees you in the dark sees your faith in the dark too. Your secret worship is not less than public worship. It is more, because it costs more, and God honors the cost. God honors the cost." I held on to those words like a talisman during the 2 years of double life that followed. The cost was loneliness. The cost was deception. The cost was the constant grinding awareness that the person everyone saw was not the person I was, but God honored the cost. He met me in the secret place. He spoke to me in the silence. He grew my faith in the dark, the way seeds grow underground before they break through the surface. The double life ended when I was 26. Not because I was discovered, because I could no longer sustain the deception. The trigger was my father's announcement that he had found me a husband. In Hausa culture, arranged marriages are common, especially among devout Muslim families. My father had been patient. By Kano standards, 26 was late for a first marriage. He had allowed me to finish university. He had allowed me to take a teaching position at a secondary school. But now, he said, it was time. A good Muslim man from a good family had expressed interest. The negotiations had begun. The wedding would be within the year. The man's name was Bashir. He was 33, a businessman, devout, from a respected family. My father described him as everything a woman could want. He meant it as a compliment. He meant it as a father who loved his daughter and wanted the best for her. But the best assumed I was still the person my father thought I was. A good Hausa Muslim girl who would marry a good Hausa Muslim man and build a good Hausa Muslim family. That person no longer existed. In her place was a woman who worshipped Jesus, who read the Bible daily, who prayed in Hausa to a God her family did not recognize. And that woman could not marry a Muslim man and live a Muslim life and raise Muslim children. The deception had limits, and marriage was the limit. I had a choice. I could marry Bashir and spend the rest of my life acting, or I could tell the truth and face the consequences. I chose the truth. I told my mother first, because she was the one who would be most affected. Because she was the one who had taught me, through her quiet sadness, that a woman's life is more than what the community sees. Because I loved her, and love demands honesty. I chose a quiet afternoon when my father was at the market and Zainab was at school. My mother was in the kitchen, preparing tuwo, the thick cornmeal paste that is the staple of Hausa cuisine. The kitchen smelled of onions and tomatoes and dawa dawa, the fermented locust bean paste that flavors everything in northern Nigerian cooking. The smell of home, the smell of my childhood, the smell that I would forever associate with the most difficult conversation of my life. I sat on the kitchen stool and said, "Mama, I need to tell you something, and I need you to listen before you respond." She looked at me. She wiped her hands on her wrapper. She sat down, and she listened. I told her everything. The reading, the questions, the night on the floor during Ramadan, Jesus, the 2 years of secret faith, the living water, the God who sees. My mother listened without moving. Her face was still. Her eyes were fixed on mine. She did not interrupt. She did not gasp. She did not cry. She just listened, with the patience of a woman who has survived polygamy and poverty, and the daily small deaths of a life that did not turn out the way she dreamed. When I finished, she was quiet for a long time. The tuwo was burning on the stove. She did not notice. Then she said, in Hausa, "Hauwa, najidadidake. I have heard you. Not I agree. Not I accept. I have heard you." In Hausa culture, those words are significant. They mean, I acknowledge what you have said. I take it seriously. I give it weight. Then she said, Your father will not understand this. Your father will see this as a betrayal. Of him, of the family, of everything we are. I said, I know, Mama. She said, and Bashir's family will be insulted. The wedding will be canceled. The shame will be enormous. I said, I know. She looked at me for a long moment, and then she did something I did not expect. She reached out and touched my face, the way she used to when I was a child. The way mothers touch their children when words are not enough. She said, You are braver than I ever was. I started crying. She started crying. We sat in the kitchen, 2 Hausa women weeping over burning tuwo, and the tears were the most honest communication we had ever shared. My mother did not convert. She does not understand my faith. She is still a Muslim, still devout, still praying 5 times a day. But in that moment, in that kitchen, she saw me. Not the performance, not the hijab, not the good Muslim girl. Me, Hauwa, and she did not look away. I am going to pause here because this moment, my mother touching my face and saying, You are braver than I ever was, is the moment that I carry in my heart like a jewel. It is the most precious thing anyone has ever given me, more precious than any theology, more precious than any argument. The validation of my mother, the acknowledgement that what I was doing was not weakness or madness, but courage. If you are watching this and you are a mother, or a father, or a sibling, or a friend of someone who has changed their faith, I want to ask you something. Not to agree, not to understand, just to see them, just to touch their face and say, I have heard you. That is all they need. That is all anyone needs. To be heard, to be seen, to be loved, not despite the truth, but through it. Share this video with someone who needs to hear that, and stay with me. My father's reaction was what I expected. When my mother told him, because we agreed that she would be the one to deliver the news, to soften it with a mother's touch, he was devastated. Not angry at first, devastated. The way a man is devastated when the ground beneath his feet opens up and swallows everything he was standing on. He came to my room. He stood in the doorway. He said, Is it true? I said, Yes, Baba. He said, You are a Christian? I said, Yes. He stared at me as if I were a stranger who had walked into his house wearing his daughter's face. Then the devastation turned to anger. He said things that I will not repeat, because they came from pain, not from his true heart. He said that I had shamed the family, that I had shamed him personally, in front of the community, in front of Bashir's family, in front of God. He said that I was no longer his daughter. Those words, You are no longer my daughter, were the hardest thing I have ever heard, harder than any verse of hellfire, harder than any threat, because they came from the man I loved most in the world, the man who had carried me on his shoulders through the Kano market, the man who had relented and let me study literature, the man who had given me the best life he knew how to give. The next days were chaos. The wedding was canceled. Bashir's family was insulted. The community buzzed with gossip. My father's brothers came to the house and argued loudly about what should be done. Some said I should be sent to an Islamic scholar for re-education. Some said I should be locked in the house until I came to my senses. One uncle said I should be sent to Baba, the Quranic healer, who could remove the jinn that had possessed me. Nobody suggested physical violence. I want to be fair about that. My family, for all their anger, did not threaten me physically. Northern Nigerian Muslim families, in my experience, tend to respond to apostasy with social pressure, ostracism, and emotional manipulation, rather than violence. The violence, when it comes, tends to come from the broader community, from zealots, from mob justice, from the Hisbah. But the emotional violence was severe. My father refused to speak to me. My brothers would not look at me. My stepmother, Hajia Aisha, told her sons to stay away from me, as if apostasy were contagious. The compound, my home, my world, my entire social universe, became a place of ice. Only my mother and Zainab remained. My mother, with her quiet bravery, continued to bring me food and check on me. Zainab, my younger sister, who was 23 and engaged to be married herself, was confused but loyal. She said, I do not understand what you believe, Hauwa, but you are my sister, and I will not pretend you are not. After 2 weeks of this icy existence, I made the decision to leave. Not because I was forced, because staying was slowly killing me. The atmosphere of shame and rejection was suffocating. Every moment in the compound was a reminder that I had become the thing no Hausa family wants. A shame, a stain, a problem. I contacted Sister Grace, She connected me with a church in the south, in Lagos, the megacity, the place where northern Muslims and southern Christians mixed in the anonymous chaos of 20 million people. A church that had a ministry for converts from Islam. A church that could offer me shelter, community, and the space to breathe. I left Kano on a bus, a 7-hour journey from the north to the south, from Islam to freedom, from the line I had been born on to the other side. My mother came to the bus park to see me off. She pressed a bag of chin-chin, the sweet fried dough that every Nigerian mother makes, into my hands. She said, "Eat on the road, and call me when you arrive." And then she hugged me, a long, fierce Hausa mother hug, and she whispered, "The God who sees you, ask him to let me see him too." I have replayed those words 10,000 times in my mind. Ask him to let me see him too. My mother, my devout, hijab-wearing, 5 times a day praying Hausa Muslim mother, was asking me to pray for her, not to Allah, to the God who sees. I carried those words on that 7-hour bus ride like a treasure, like a seed, like a promise that the line running through Nigeria might one day dissolve, not through politics or war or argument, through love, through mothers touching their daughters' faces, through prayers whispered at bus parks, through a God who sees everyone on both sides. Lagos. If Kano is ancient and ordered, Lagos is modern and chaotic. 20 million people crammed into a space designed for a fraction of that number. Traffic that can turn a 1-hour journey into a 5-hour ordeal. Markets that stretch for miles. Music, Afrobeats, juju, gospel, high life, pouring out of every speaker, every car, every open window. Life at maximum volume. Lagos was freedom, not just because it was away from Kano, because in Lagos, nobody cares who you are. Nobody asks your tribe or your religion or your father's name. In the anonymous crush of the megacity, you can be whoever you want to be. You can reinvent yourself. You can breathe. The church that Sister Grace connected me with was a large Pentecostal church in the Ikeja area. The worship was loud, joyful, full body, full voice. People sang and danced and clapped and prayed with an intensity that made my Hausa reserve seem almost comical. The first Sunday I attended, the worship went on for over an hour before the sermon even started. People were crying, laughing, dancing, prophesying. The energy in the room was electric. I was overwhelmed, and I was home. The church's ministry for Muslim background believers paired me with a mentor, a Nigerian woman named Blessing, who had herself converted from Islam 15 years earlier. Blessing was Yoruba, warm, practical, and no nonsense. She helped me find a room in a shared apartment. She helped me find a job. I started teaching English at a private school. She helped me navigate the culture shock of moving from the conservative Muslim North to the freewheeling Christian South. And she helped me grieve, because conversion, even joyful conversion, involves grief. I was grieving the loss of my father's love, grieving the loss of my community, grieving the loss of the compound, the courtyard, the smell of tuwo and dawadawa, the sound of the muezzin at dawn, grieving the life I had been shaped for and was now walking away from. Blessing sat with me through the grief. She did not minimize it. She did not rush me through it. She said, "Hauwa, grief is the price of love. You grieve because you loved. And you loved because you are human. Do not be ashamed of the grief. Let it come, and let Jesus sit with you in it." Jesus sat with me, in the grief, in the loneliness, in the moments when I missed my mother so fiercely that my chest physically ached. He sat with me the way he sat with Mary and Martha when Lazarus died. Not fixing, not explaining, just present, just close, just there. And slowly, the grief made room for joy. Not the forced joy of someone pretending to be okay. The genuine joy of someone who has lost much and found more. The joy of worshiping freely, at full volume, in my own language, without hiding. The joy of being part of a community that knew my full story and loved me anyway. The joy of hearing my own voice, Hauwa's voice, speaking truth aloud for the first time. I want to tell you about the first time I worshipped freely. It was my 3rd Sunday at the church in Ikeja. The worship leader, a young Yoruba woman with a voice like honey, began singing a song I had heard online during my secret reading days, but I had only ever heard it through earbuds, in whispers, in the dark. Now she was singing it at full volume, in a room full of people, with drums and guitars and keyboards, and the sound was so big and so free and so alive that my body did not know what to do. I started trembling. Not from fear. I was done with fear. From release. Like a dam breaking. Like pressure that has been building for years finally finding an outlet. My mouth opened, and the words came out. Not in English, not in Yoruba, but in Hausa, my language, my mother tongue. I sang to Jesus in Hausa, in the middle of a Yoruba church, in the middle of Lagos, at the top of my lungs, and nobody cared that I was singing in a different language, because worship is not about language. Worship is about the heart finding its voice. I sang, and I cried, and I danced. Danced. Something I had never done in any mosque, in any prayer, in any religious setting in my entire life. My body moved the way bodies are supposed to move when joy is too big to stand still. And the woman next to me, a complete stranger, a large, beautiful Igbo woman in a magnificent aso oke, grabbed my hand and danced with me. 2 Nigerian women, from 2 different tribes, from 2 different religions, from 2 different sides of the line, dancing together in the presence of a God who erases lines. That was the moment I knew I was home. Not Kano home, something deeper. The home that the cold spot had been aching for. The home that no compound and no community and no culture can provide. The home that only God can build. And he had built it for me, in Lagos, in an Ikea church, on a Sunday morning, with music and tears and dancing and a stranger's hand. I am 28 now. I have been in Lagos for 2 years. Let me tell you where things stand. I teach English at a private school. My students are a mix of Lagos kids, loud, smart, ambitious, multilingual, and utterly uninterested in the tribal and religious divisions that define the older generation. Teaching them fills me with hope. These kids do not care if you are Hausa or Yoruba or Igbo, Muslim or Christian. They care about Afrobeats and football and TikTok and their futures. They are the Nigeria I want to see. I am active in my church. I lead a small group for women from Muslim backgrounds. There are 8 of us. We meet weekly. We are Hausa, Fulani, Kanuri, Yoruba. Some left Islam recently. Some left years ago. All of us carry the scars of the crossing. And all of us are healing, together, in the company of women who understand what it costs to cross the line. I am in contact with my mother. She calls me every week. We talk about food, about Zainab's wedding preparations, about the weather in Lagos versus Kano. We rarely discuss religion directly, but there are moments, small, tender moments, when the line blurs. She will say, "I read something beautiful in the Quran today." And I will say, "I read something beautiful in the Bible today." And we will both be quiet for a moment. 2 women on either side of the line, connected by love and separated by theology. And the silence between us is not empty. It is full of everything we cannot yet say, but will one day, when the time is right. My father has not spoken to me. 18 months of silence. I send him messages through my mother. I tell him I love him. I tell him I am safe. I tell him that I am still his daughter, whether he claims me or not. My mother says he reads the messages. She says he does not respond, but he does not delete them either. He keeps them, in a phone that he thinks no one sees. And I have to believe, that the God who sees Hauwa also sees Alhaji Musa, sitting in his house in Kano, reading his daughter's messages in secret, carrying his own cold spot, that he does not yet know how to warm. Zainab and I talk regularly. She is engaged to a Muslim man, and will be married soon. She does not share my faith, but she shares my curiosity. She has asked me questions, careful questions, the kind that a Hausa girl asks when she is testing the water without committing to swimming. I answer honestly. I do not push. I just love her, and I trust that the God who found me can find her too. I also want to mention something that happened recently that gave me immense hope. I was at the market in Lagos, Balagan Market, the vast, chaotic, beautiful sprawl of commerce that is the heartbeat of Lagos. I was buying fabric. Old habits die hard. I am still a Hausa girl who loves beautiful cloth, and I overheard 2 women talking in Hausa, in Lagos. 2 northern women far from home speaking my language. I approached them. We talked. We laughed. We did what Nigerian women do. We bonded instantly over shared culture and shared distance from home. And one of them, after about 30 minutes of conversation, lowered her voice and said, "Sister, can I ask you something? You seem different from other Hausa women I meet. You seem free. What is your secret?" And I heard myself say the words that I had carried in my heart since that night on the floor during Ramadan. His name is Jesus, and he sees you. She looked at me. Her eyes widened, and she said very quietly, "I have been looking for someone to tell me that." We exchanged numbers. We have been talking since. I do not know if she will cross the line. That is not my business. My business is to be visible, to let the freedom show, to let the rivers flow, and to trust that the God who sees Hauwa sees every woman in every market, in every city, on both sides of every line. I want to close with some reflections, not arguments, not theology, just the things I have learned from crossing the line. I have learned that faith is not a location. It is not the north or the south, the mosque or the church, the hijab or the uncovered hair. Faith is the orientation of the heart. It is which direction you are facing, and you can change direction without changing your address. I have learned that love is stronger than religion. My mother proved that. She did not agree with my faith. She did not understand it, but she loved me through it. She touched my face when I told her the worst thing a daughter can tell a Hausa Muslim mother. She came to the bus park. She whispered a prayer. Love did what theology could not. It kept the connection alive when the doctrines should have severed it. I have learned that God is not on one side of the line. He is on both sides. And his greatest desire is not that we pick the right side, but that we find him, wherever we are, on whatever side we stand. The woman at the well was on the wrong side of every line that mattered. Ethnic, moral, social, religious. And Jesus went to her anyway. He crossed every line, because lines do not matter to him. People matter. I have learned that the cold spot, the one I carried for 24 years, was not a deficiency. It was a signal. It was God, tapping on the walls of my soul, saying, "There is more. There is something beyond the performance. There is someone who wants to know you, not just your prayers." And I have learned that the thirst, the deep, aching Ramadan in Kano thirst, was not a weakness. It was an invitation to come and drink, to stop performing and start receiving, to stop earning and start being loved. I came, I drank, and the rivers are flowing. I want to add one more reflection, because it is important to me and I think it will be important to some of you. I do not hate Islam. I want to be very clear about that. I do not hate the Quran. I do not hate the mosque. I do not hate the call to prayer. I actually miss it sometimes. The sound of the muezzin floating through the Kano air at dawn. It is beautiful. It will always be beautiful to me. What I left was not the beauty. What I left was the distance. The distance between me and the God I was praying to. The distance between the performance and the presence. The distance between hearing about God and seeing God. Islam gave me many good things. Discipline, community, a sense of the sacred, a framework for understanding the world. I carry those gifts with me into my Christian life. I am still disciplined. I still value community. I still have a deep sense of the sacred. These are not things I discarded when I crossed the line. They are things I brought with me. They are part of who Hauwa is. And Jesus does not ask me to erase who I am. He asks me to become who I was meant to be. And who I was meant to be includes all of it. The Hausa girl, the Kano memories, the compound courtyard, the tuwo and dawa-dawa, the lace fabrics at weddings, all of it, redeemed, all of it, made new, all of it seen. I am Hauwa, I am Hausa, I am Nigerian, I am Christian, and I am whole, not torn between two worlds, whole, for the first time. Because the God who sees me sees all of me, the northern side and the southern side, the Muslim past and the Christian present, the grief and the joy. He sees it all, and he loves it all. And that love is the river that flows through everything. My name is Hauwa Abdullahi. I am 28 years old. I am Hausa, from Kano, northern Nigeria. I grew up on the Islamic side of the line that runs through my country. I memorized Quran. I fasted Ramadan. I wore hijab. I was the good Muslim girl. And I crossed the line. Not because Islam was bad. Islam gave me community, structure, discipline, and a sense of belonging. I honor those gifts. Not because Christianity was easy. It was the hardest thing I have ever done. And not because I wanted to rebel or shock or make a statement. I crossed the line because I was thirsty. And on the other side, someone was offering water, living water, water that does not run out, water that reaches the parts of you that discipline and ritual and performance cannot touch. I am still thirsty sometimes. Faith does not eliminate hunger. It gives you a source. And the source is a person who sees you, who knows your name, who notices you in the crowd, who touches your face and says, "I have heard you." His name is Jesus, and he is waiting for you, on whatever side of the line you stand. Come and drink. Thank you for watching. In Hausa, we say nagod, thank you. And I say it from the deepest part of my heart. Nagode for your time. Nagode for your attention. Nagode for letting a Hausa girl from Kano tell you about the most important thing that ever happened to her. If this testimony moved you, I am asking 3 things. First, leave a comment. Tell me what part of this story spoke to you. Was it the cold spot? The night during Ramadan? My mother's whispered prayer? Whatever it was, share it. Every comment is a voice telling the world that the line is not the end of the story. Second, share this video. Send it to a Nigerian. Send it to a Muslim woman. Send it to anyone who has ever wondered, does God see me? This video is the answer. He sees you. He has always seen you. Third, subscribe. This channel is a bridge across the line. Every testimony is a plank in that bridge. Your subscription helps us build it wider, stronger, longer, until no one has to cross alone. Until next time. Be brave, be seen, be loved. My name is Hauwa, and this is my testimony. Na God. God bless you.